I, 28, F, always knew my father loved me in his own way. His way was about control. It was about shaping my life into something that reflected well on him. He paid for my education at a prestigious university. He bought me my first car, a sensible sedan he chose himself. He even helped with the down payment on my first apartment, a place conveniently located just 10 minutes from his own home. To the outside world, he was the perfect father, generous, supportive, and deeply involved. But I knew the truth. Every gift came with a string. Every check came with an expectation. My life was not my own. It was a project he was managing. When I met my husband, Liam, 30M, I knew my father would not approve. Liam was everything my father was not. He was kind, gentle, and saw me for who I was, not who I could be. He came from a working-class family and built his own small contracting business from the ground up. He was proud, independent, and had no interest in my father's money or influence. My father, Richard, saw him as a threat, a variable he could not control. He made his disapproval clear from the start, with subtle digs about Liam's job and not-so-subtle comments about his lack of a proper family background. Despite his objections, Liam and I fell deeply in love. When he proposed, I said yes without hesitation. It was the first major life decision I had ever made entirely for myself, and it felt like breathing for the first time. My father was furious, but he knew that openly forbidding the marriage would make him look bad. So, he did what he always did. He took control. He insisted on paying for the wedding, framing it as a lavish gift that no one could refuse. He called it, giving me the fairy tale I deserved. I knew it was a power play. By funding the entire event, he became the producer, the director, and the star of the show. Liam and I were just actors in his production. We went along with it because it felt easier than fighting. We let him book the ridiculously expensive venue. We approved the caterer he had pre-selected. We used the florist his assistant recommended. With every decision he made for us, a small piece of my joy was chipped away. Liam saw it, and he hated it. He offered to elope a dozen times, to run away to a courthouse and just be married. But I was still trapped in the habit of pleasing my father. I told myself that if we just got through the wedding, we could finally be free. We could start our life on our own terms, away from his influence. I was so naive. The wedding day was beautiful, a perfect performance of happiness. My father walked me down the aisle, his hand gripping my arm just a little too tightly. He smiled for the cameras, playing the part of the proud father of the bride. He shook Liam's hand at the altar, a gesture that looked like a blessing but felt like a warning. The ceremony was a blur, but when Liam and I said our vows, looking only at each other, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe this was real. Maybe this was the beginning of our freedom. The reception was where the illusion finally shattered. It was time for the toasts. My maid of honor, my best friend Sarah, gave a beautiful, heartfelt speech. Liam's best man told a funny story from their childhood. Then my father stood up. He tapped his glass with a fork, and a hush fell over the room. He was a charismatic speaker, and he knew how to command an audience. Everyone leaned in, expecting a touching tribute to his daughter and his new son-in-law. I have known Amelia her entire life, he began, his voice smooth and confident. From the moment she was born, I knew my most important job was to protect her, to provide for her, and to make sure she had every opportunity for a good life. He paused, looking directly at me. His eyes were not warm. They were possessive. I have always strived to give her the very best. The best schools, the best experiences, the best foundation for a happy and secure future. The room was filled with soft, approving murmurs. People were nodding. They saw a loving father. I saw a man taking credit for my entire existence. I felt Liam's hand find mine under the table. His grip was firm, a silent anchor in the storm I could feel brewing. My father raised his glass. He smiled, a wide, polished smile that never reached his eyes. So, I would like to propose a toast. he announced, his voice booming through the microphone. To the one person who I know can always be counted on to give my daughter a good life. The person who will ensure she is always safe, always secure, and always taken care of. He paused for dramatic effect, sweeping his gaze across the room. He looked at my mother, who was beaming with pride. He looked at my sister, Clara, who was watching him with adoration. His eyes flickered past Liam, a dismissal so quick it was almost imperceptible. But I saw it. Liam saw it. Then, my father's eyes landed back on me, and he raised his glass a little higher. "To me?" he said, his voice ringing with absolute certainty. He drank from his glass. For a second, there was dead silence. The guests were confused. They had expected him to toast the groom or the couple. The air grew thick with awkwardness. Then, a few of his business associates, the ones who relied on his favor, began to clap uncertainly. The applause spread slowly, weakly, as people tried to pretend this was a charming, quirky joke. But it was not a joke. I stared at him, my heart pounding in my chest. He had not mentioned my husband. He had not mentioned our future together. He had stood up at my wedding, in front of everyone we knew, and declared that I was still his, that my husband was irrelevant, that he, and he alone, was the guarantor of my happiness. It was the most profound insult he could have possibly delivered, a public castration of my new husband and a complete negation of our marriage. Liam's hand was so tight on mine that my bones ached. I looked at him. His face was a mask of stone, but his jaw was clenched, and a muscle was twitching in his cheek. He was radiating a quiet, controlled fury. He did not look at my father. He looked at me, his eyes asking a silent question. "What are you going to do?" I did nothing. I sat there, frozen in my seat, the beautiful white dress suddenly feeling like a costume. I felt the heat of hundreds of eyes on me. I saw the pity, the confusion, the faint traces of secondhand embarrassment. My father sat down, looking pleased with himself. He had made his point. He had reestablished his dominance. My mother reached over and patted his arm, as if he had just done something wonderful. My sister gave him a little thumbs up from across the table. They were all in on it. They were all part of his system of control. Later that night, after we had cut the cake he chose and danced our first dance to a song he approved of, Liam and I were finally alone in our hotel suite. The silence was deafening. Liam stood by the window, his back to me, staring out at the city lights. I started to unpin my hair, my hands shaking. "I am so sorry, Liam," I whispered. He turned around slowly. The anger was gone from his face, replaced by a deep, weary sadness. "It is not your fault, Amy," he said. His voice was hoarse. "But we cannot pretend that did not happen." "He was just being him," I said, the old, familiar excuses already forming on my lips. "He thinks it is funny. He has a strange sense of humor." "That was not a joke," Liam said, his voice flat. "That was a statement. He was telling me and you and everyone in that room that I do not matter, that our marriage is just a little game you are playing until you come back home to him." I felt a fresh wave of shame wash over me. "It is not like that," I insisted, though I knew it was. "Once we are out of here, once we start our own life, he will not be able to interfere. He will have to accept it." Liam walked over to me and gently took my hands. "Amy, look at me," he said. "Your father does not accept things. He controls them. This whole wedding was about control. And that toast? That was him telling us that it is not over. It is just beginning." I wanted to argue. I wanted to defend my father, to smooth things over, to do what I had always done. Keep the peace at any cost. But looking into Liam's honest, worried eyes, I could not bring myself to lie. He was right. This was not the end of my father's control. It was a declaration of war. And I had just willingly walked myself, and the man I loved, right into the middle of the battlefield. We were married for less than 8 hours, and my father had already drawn a line in the sand, placing himself on one side and my husband on the other, forcing me to one day make a choice I was terrified to even consider. The next morning, we were scheduled to have a farewell brunch with my family before leaving for our honeymoon. I dreaded it. I just wanted to get on a plane with Liam and fly away from all of it. But I knew that skipping the brunch would be seen as a slight, another black mark against me that my father would use as leverage later. So, we went. The atmosphere was tense. My father was acting as if nothing had happened. He was jovial, laughing loudly, and slapping his friends on the back. My mother was flitting around, making sure everyone had enough coffee, her face stretched into a tight, anxious smile. Clara, my older sister, cornered me by the pastry table. "Dad's toast was hilarious," she said, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "A real power move. You should have seen the look on Liam's face." I stared at her. "You thought that was funny?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Of course," she said with a shrug. "Dad was just reminding everyone who the man of the house is. Someone has to look out for you. You have always been so naive." I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. It was not just my father. It was a family system, an entire culture of control and dismissal built around him. My sister was not just an observer. She was a willing participant. She enjoyed seeing me kept in my place. She was the golden child, the one who always did what was expected, and my marriage to Liam was a rebellion she could not understand and did not support. Liam stayed quiet through the whole brunch. He was polite. He answered questions when asked, but he kept a deliberate distance from my father. He was observing, calculating. I could see the wheels turning in his mind. He was sizing up his opponent. Finally, just as we were about to leave, my father pulled us aside. He had a large, ornate envelope in his hand. "A little wedding present," he said, handing it to me. He did not look at Liam. "To help you two get started on the right foot." I opened it. Inside was a cashier's check for a staggering amount of money. It was far more than we ever could have expected. It was enough to buy a house, to pay off all our debts, to travel the world. It was a life-changing sum. I felt a confusing mix of gratitude and dread. This was not a gift. It was a weapon. "Dad, this is too much," I stammered. "Nonsense," he said, waving a dismissive hand. "It is my pleasure. I want my daughter to have a good life. I already have some ideas for a wonderful starter home for you in my neighborhood. I will have my assistant send over the listings." Liam spoke for the first time, his voice calm and steady. "Thank you, Richard," he said. "But Amelia and I will be deciding where we live together." My father's smile tightened. He finally looked at Liam, his eyes cold and hard. "Of course," he said, the word dripping with condescension. "But it is always good to have expert advice. You will find my advice is usually the best." He clapped Liam on the shoulder, a gesture that was more of a shove than a friendly pat. "You take good care of her," he said, but it sounded like a threat. On the way to the airport, I stared at the check in my hands. It felt heavy, like a block of lead. "He is trying to buy us," I said quietly. "I know," Liam said, his eyes fixed on the road. "But we are not for sale." He reached over and put his hand on my knee. "We will take the money and we will use it to build our own life. A life so far away from him that he cannot touch us." His confidence was a balm to my frayed nerves. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. I deposited the check into our joint savings account via my phone's banking app right there in the car. It felt like a modern act of rebellion. The money was in our account now, under our control. We were finally free. We spent 2 weeks on our honeymoon in a state of blissful denial. We did not talk about my father. We did not talk about the wedding, the toast, or the suffocating weight of his gift. We just focused on each other. We swam, we hiked, We talked for hours about our dreams for the future. We dreamed of a small house with a big yard for a dog, of starting a family, of growing Liam's business. For the first time, it all felt possible. We had the means to make it happen. The money was not a weapon. It was a tool. Our tool. The illusion came crashing down the day we got back. We were exhausted from the flight, but happy. We walked into our small apartment, which suddenly felt full of promise instead of limitations. As we started unpacking, my phone buzzed. It was an email from my father. The subject line was exciting news. My heart sank. I opened it. The email was brief and cheerful. It said that he had taken the liberty of moving our wedding gift fund into a more secure, high-yield investment vehicle. He wrote that he had set up a family legacy trust in my name to protect the money from market volatility, and he added, from youthful indiscretion. He said he was the trustee, of course, to manage it responsibly. The email ended with, "All you need to do is let me know when you have a legitimate expense, like a down payment on a house I approve of, and I will be happy to sign off on the withdrawal. Just looking out for you. Love, Dad." I read the email twice. Then a third time. The words blurred together. I felt the blood drain from my face. I looked at Liam, who was watching me with concern. "What is it?" he asked. I could not speak. I just handed him my phone. He read the email, his expression slowly shifting from confusion to disbelief, and then to pure, cold rage. He looked up from the phone, his eyes blazing. "He did what?" Liam said, his voice dangerously quiet. I immediately logged into our online banking app. I navigated to our joint savings account. The account where, just 2 weeks ago, I had deposited my father's check. The money was gone. Every single penny. The account balance was 0. There was a single transaction record from the day after I deposited the check. A wire transfer for the full amount sent to an account I did not recognize. My father had not waited for our permission. He had not even waited for us to leave the country. He had simply taken it. "He took it," I whispered, the reality of it hitting me like a physical blow. "He took all of it." Liam stared at the phone screen, then back at me. The sadness and weariness were gone. In their place was a steely resolve I had never seen before. "No," he said, his voice low and hard. "He did not take it. He stole it." In that moment, something inside me broke. The years of quiet compliance, of making excuses, of swallowing insults to keep the peace, it all crumbled away. My father had not just insulted my husband. He had not just tried to control our future. He had committed a grand act of theft, cloaking it in the language of fatherly concern. He had used my trust and his power to trap us, to make us completely dependent on his approval for our own money. Liam was right. This was not a gift. It was a cage. And I realized with a chilling certainty that he would never, ever let us out willingly. If we wanted to be free, we were going to have to fight for it. The war had begun. The first thing we did was call my father. I was shaking with a mixture of fear and fury. Liam stood beside me, his hand on my shoulder, a silent source of strength. I put the phone on speaker. My father answered on the second ring, his voice cheerful and smug. "Amelia, sweetheart, how was the honeymoon? Did you get my email?" he asked. "I got it," I said, my voice tight. "Dad, where is our money?" There was a slight pause. "I explained it in the email," he said, his tone shifting from cheerful to condescending, the voice he used when he was explaining something to a child. "It is safe. It is invested. I am managing it for you." "You had no right to do that," I said, my voice rising. "That was a gift." "It was our money. You cannot just take it." "I did not take it, Amelia," he said patiently. "I secured it. You are young. You and Liam. You do not have experience with this kind of money. I am protecting you from making a mistake." Liam spoke then, his voice cutting through the air like a knife. "Richard, that money was in our bank account. You moved it without our permission. That is illegal. My father laughed. It was a short, sharp, ugly sound. Do not be so dramatic, son, he said, the word son dripping with sarcasm. The money was a gift from me. I am simply guiding how it is used. It is still for Amelia's benefit. My name was on the check, and my name is on the trust. It is all perfectly legal and above board. You should be thanking me. Thanking you? I cried, my control finally snapping. You humiliated my husband at our wedding, and then you stole our money. Why are you doing this? I am doing this because I love you, he said, his voice turning syrupy and false. I am making sure you have the good life I promised you. A life that, let's be honest, Liam cannot provide. This trust ensures your future no matter what happens. No matter what happens. The unspoken words hung in the air. No matter if your little marriage fails. No matter when you finally come to your senses and leave him. We want the money back, Dad, I said, my voice cold. Put it back in our account. Now. That is not going to happen, he said, his voice hardening. The fake concern was gone, replaced by the unyielding steel I knew so well. This is for your own good. When you have a sensible purchase in mind, you come to me and we will discuss it. That is my final word. I have a meeting to get to. We will talk later. He hung up. The silence in the apartment was absolute. I stared at the phone, my hand still clutching it. He had admitted it. He had openly admitted to taking the money and refusing to give it back. He felt untouchable. He believed he had all the power. He thinks he has won, I said, my voice a hollow echo in the room. Liam walked over and took the phone from my hand, placing it gently on the counter. He put his arms around me. He has not won anything, he said, his voice firm. He has just made the biggest mistake of his life. He underestimated you, and he underestimated us. I leaned against him, drawing strength from his certainty. What do we do? I asked. First, he said, we stop playing his game. No more phone calls, no more arguing. From now on, we gather information. We need to find out exactly what this trust is. We need documents. We need proof. His clarity cut through my panic. He was right. Yelling at my father was pointless. He thrived on emotional conflict. He used it to make me feel hysterical and irrational. We needed a different approach. We needed a plan. My first step was to call my mother. I hoped, foolishly, that she might be an ally. I thought that maybe, just maybe, she would see how wrong this was. I was mistaken. Oh, Amelia, she sighed after I explained the situation. You are overreacting. Your father is just trying to help. Mom, he took our money without asking, I said, trying to keep my voice even. How is that helping? He is protecting it for you, she said, parroting his words. He has always taken such good care of us. You should trust his judgment. He knows best about these things. He does not know best for me and Liam, I argued. We are married now. We are supposed to make our own decisions. He is treating me like I am a child. Well, sometimes you act like one, she snapped, her voice sharp. You are being so ungrateful. After everything your father has done for you, the beautiful wedding he gave you, this is how you repay him? By questioning his generosity? I was stunned into silence. Ungrateful. That was the word he always used. It was the ultimate weapon in their arsenal. Anytime I expressed a desire for independence, anytime I pushed back against his control, I was labeled ungrateful. It was a way to shut down any argument, to make me feel guilty and ashamed for wanting a life of my own. This is not about gratitude, Mom, I said quietly. This is about respect, and Dad is not respecting me or my marriage. You need to apologize to your father, she said, her voice firm. You have upset him. Just go along with it, Amelia. It is easier for everyone that way. Easier for her, she meant. Easier for her to live in her comfortable bubble. to not have to confront the reality of the man she was married to. I felt a profound sense of disappointment. My own mother was not on my side. She was his loyal soldier. "I am not apologizing," I said, and for the first time I felt a flicker of real strength. "And I am not going along with it." I ended the call before she could reply. There was no help to be found there. My next call was even worse. I called my sister, Clara. "Oh, for heaven's sake, Amy," she said with an exasperated sigh. "I heard you called Mom and threw a tantrum. Are you really going to make a big deal out of this?" "He stole my wedding money, Clara," I said bluntly. "Dad did not steal anything," she scoffed. "He is managing it. Honestly, it is probably for the best. You and Liam would have probably wasted it on something frivolous. At least this way, you know it is being looked after properly." "So you think this is okay?" I asked, my voice incredulous. "You think it is okay for him to control my life like this?" "He is not controlling you. He is helping you," she said, sounding bored. "You have no idea how the real world works. Dad is just making sure you are taken care of. You should be thanking him, not throwing a fit. Grow up." The call ended with a click. I sat there, holding the phone, feeling utterly alone. My entire family was aligned against me. They saw my father as a benevolent patriarch and me as a spoiled, ungrateful child. They could not, or would not, see the truth, that his love was a cage and his generosity was a leash. Liam came into the room and saw my face. "Let me guess," he said. "They are on his side." I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. "They think I am being ungrateful," I whispered. He knelt in front of me and took my hands. "Listen to me," he said, his eyes intense. "Their opinion does not matter. They have been living in his world for so long they cannot see the bars on their own cages. But we can. This is not about them. This is about us. And we are going to get our money back, and we are going to get our life back." He was right. I could not expect help from people who were part of the problem. My mother and sister were not just enablers. They were active participants in the system of control. They benefited from it. My sister, as the compliant golden child, was rewarded for her loyalty. My mother, in exchange for her silence, was given a life of luxury and ease. They had no incentive to help me rock the boat. "So, what is our next move?" I asked, my voice a little stronger. "We need to see the paperwork for this trust," Liam said. "He claims it is all legal. Let's see how legal it really is. We need to demand a copy of the trust documents." That became our new mission. I sent my father a polite, carefully worded email. I wrote that, for our own records, Liam and I would like a copy of all the paperwork related to the family legacy trust. I tried to sound calm and reasonable, as if this were a perfectly normal request. His reply came a few hours later. It was dismissive. "There is no need for you to worry about the paperwork, Amelia. It is all very complicated legal stuff. You would not understand it. Just know that everything is in order and your money is safe." I gritted my teeth. The condescension was infuriating. I replied immediately. "I understand it might be complicated, but I would still like a copy for my files. Please send it over." He did not reply to that email, or the next one I sent a day later, or the follow-up text I sent the day after that. He was stonewalling us. He was used to me giving up when he put up a wall. But this time was different. Every time he ignored me, it fueled my resolve. A week went by with no word. Liam and I spent our evenings researching. We looked up trust law. We learned about the duties of a trustee and the rights of a beneficiary. The more we learned, the more we suspected that something was very wrong. A legitimate trustee would have a legal obligation to provide the beneficiary with documents and regular accountings. My father's refusal to do so was a massive red flag. "He is hiding something," Liam said one night as we were poring over legal websites. If this was a real, properly established trust, he would have no reason to hide the paperwork. In fact, he would be legally required to show it to you. So what do we do? I asked. He is just ignoring us. We have to escalate, Liam said. We need to stop asking nicely. The thought terrified me. Escalating meant real confrontation. It meant turning this from a family disagreement into something much more serious. But we had no other choice. My father had left us with no other path. I sent one final email. It was short and to the point. Dad, this is my third request for the trust documents. If I do not receive them within 48 hours, I will have to assume you are unwilling to provide them, and I will be forced to seek legal counsel to understand my rights as a beneficiary. The threat of a lawyer was a line I had never dared to cross before. In my family, all disputes were handled internally, which meant they were handled by my father. Bringing in an outsider was a cardinal sin. I hit send, my heart pounding. I had just declared war. The response was almost instantaneous. My phone rang. It was my father. His voice was no longer condescending or cheerful. It was ice cold. What is the meaning of that email? He demanded without any preamble. It means what it says, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Liam gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. I want the paperwork for the trust. You are threatening me? He said, his voice laced with disbelief and fury. After everything I have done for you, you are threatening to bring lawyers into this family's business? This is my business, I said. It is my money, and you are refusing to be transparent about it. What are you hiding, Dad? There was a long, charged silence on the other end of the line. I could hear him breathing heavily. He was angry. I had never stood up to him like this before, and he did not know how to handle it. You are making a very big mistake, Amelia, he said, his voice low and menacing. You do not want to make an enemy of me. You have no idea what you are getting into. All I want is a copy of the trust documents, I repeated, clinging to the single reasonable request like a life raft. Send them to me, and this all goes away. Fine, he snapped. You want to see the paperwork? Fine. Be at my house for dinner on Sunday, and you will come alone. He hung up. I looked at Liam, my eyes wide. He said I have to go alone, I said. Liam's expression was grim. It is a trap, he said. He wants to get you on his home turf, without me there to back you up. He is going to try to intimidate you, to manipulate you, to make you back down. I know, I said. But I also knew I had to go. This was the first concession he had made. It was a crack in his wall of control. I had to see what was on the other side. I have to do it, I told Liam, but I will not back down, I promise. The next few days were excruciating. My mother called me several times, her voice alternating between pleading and angry. She begged me to call off the lawyer talk and apologize to my father. She accused me of trying to tear the family apart. I told her calmly that Dad was the one doing that by hiding things from me. She did not understand. She ended one call by sobbing that I was not the daughter she raised. The words stung, but they did not deter me. The daughter she raised would have already given up. I was not that person anymore. Sunday arrived and I felt sick with nerves. As I got ready to leave for my parents' house, Liam held my hands. Remember, he said, you are not there to argue. You are there to get information, get the documents, and get out. Do not let him drag you into an emotional fight. That is where he wins. I nodded. Get the documents, get out, I repeated like a mantra. He gave me a small, discreet recording device shaped like a pen. Just in case, he said. Turn it on before you go in. Put it in your pocket. You probably will not need it, but it is better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. I took the pen, my hand trembling slightly. It felt clandestine and dramatic, but Liam was right. I could not trust my father. I needed to protect myself. I drove to my parents' house, the house I grew up in. It was a large, imposing colonial that was meant to project an image of wealth and stability. To me, it had always felt more like a museum than a home. Beautiful, cold, and full of things you were not allowed to touch. My mother greeted me at the door. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she would not look at me directly. She just mumbled something about my father being in his study and scurried away toward the kitchen. The house was silent. Clara was nowhere to be seen, which was a small relief. I walked to my father's study. The door was ajar. I took a deep breath, turned on the recording pen in my pocket, and pushed the door open. My father was sitting behind his large mahogany desk. He did not get up. He just watched me with cold, calculating eyes. On the desk in front of him was a single, thin folder. "Amelia," he said, his voice flat. "Sit down." I sat in the leather chair opposite him. The chair was designed to be lower than his, so that anyone sitting there had to literally look up to him. It was a classic power move, one of his favorites. I had never noticed it so consciously before. "You wanted to see the paperwork," he said, tapping the folder with his finger. "Here it is." He did not hand it to me. He just left it on the desk, forcing me to lean forward to reach it. I took the folder and opened it. Inside were 2 pieces of paper. One was a bank statement for a joint savings account at a bank I had never heard of. The account was in his name and my name. The statement showed the single large deposit from our wedding check and a balance that was slightly higher, thanks to a little bit of interest. There were no withdrawals. The second paper was a signature card for the account with his signature and a space for mine. I stared at the papers, confused. "This is it?" I asked. "This is the trust?" My father leaned back in his chair, a smug smile playing on his lips. "That is it," he said. "Simple, effective. I call it a trust because I am the trustee of your well-being. It is a turn of phrase." I felt a surge of anger. "This is not a trust," I said, my voice shaking. "This is just a joint bank account. You lied to me." "I did not lie," he said calmly. "I simplified things for you. A formal trust would have been expensive to set up and maintain. This is much more efficient. The money is safe, it is in your name, and I am here to provide my guidance on how it is spent." Just like I said. "Guidance?" I repeated, my voice dripping with disbelief. "You told me you had to sign off on any withdrawal. If my name is on the account, I should be able to access the money myself." "Ah," he said, his smile widening. "That is the clever part. You see, I am the primary account holder, and I have set it up so that 2 signatures are required for any withdrawal over $500. My signature and yours. So you see, I cannot take the money without you. And you cannot take the money without me. It is the perfect partnership. I am protecting you from yourself." The pieces clicked into place. The sheer, diabolical brilliance of his plan was breathtaking. He had not done anything technically illegal in the strictest sense. The money was in an account with my name on it, but he had structured it in a way that gave him absolute and total veto power over every single cent. He had not stolen the money. He had taken it hostage. "So I cannot access my own money unless you approve of what I am buying," I said, my voice flat. "Precisely," he said, looking incredibly pleased with himself. "When you and Liam find a sensible house in a good neighborhood, I will happily co-sign the check for the down payment. When you need a reliable car, I will help you choose one and sign. I am ensuring that my gift is used wisely. To build the good life you deserve." "The good life you define," I shot back. "A house you choose, a car you approve of, a life that is still under your control." His smile vanished. "That is enough," he said, his voice dropping an octave. "I am doing what is best for you. You are my daughter, and you will respect my decisions. This arrangement is not up for debate. It is done." I looked at the man in front of me, the man who was supposed to love me and protect me. He was not protecting me. He was caging me. He did not see a grown woman, a wife, an independent person. He saw a possession, an asset to be managed. "And what about Liam?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "Where does my husband fit into your plan?" My father scoffed. Liam can continue to run his little business, he said dismissively. It will keep him busy. But when it comes to the important things, the foundational things for your life, I will be the one you come to. His income is supplemental. This money, he tapped the folder again, is your security. I am your security. The recording pen in my pocket suddenly felt very heavy. I had it all. His admission that he had lied about the trust. His detailed explanation of how he had structured the account to control me. His open dismissal of my husband. His declaration that he, not Liam, was my security. I stood up. I had what I came for. I think we are done here, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I placed the folder back on his desk. I did not need the papers. I had something better. He looked surprised that I was not fighting, not crying, not pleading. He had expected an emotional outburst. He had been prepared for a fight he knew he could win. He was not prepared for my cold, quiet calm. Yes, he said, recovering quickly. We are. I am glad you are finally seeing reason. Now, your mother is holding dinner for you. I am not staying for dinner, I said, walking toward the door. I have lost my appetite. I walked out of the study, down the hall, and out the front door without looking back. I did not stop until I was in my car, driving away. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely grip the steering wheel. I had not cried in his office. I had not let him see any weakness. But now, alone in my car, the tears came. They were not tears of sadness or self-pity. They were tears of pure, undiluted rage. He thought he had won. He thought he had put me back in my box, that I had accepted my gilded cage. He had no idea what I was about to do. He had given me the truth, and the truth was a weapon. I was going to use it to burn his whole world to the ground. When I got home, Liam was waiting for me, pacing the living room. The second I walked in the door, he rushed to me. What happened? Are you okay? I took a deep breath and told him everything. I explained the joint account, the two-signature requirement, the way my father had twisted the truth to maintain control. I told him about the condescending way he spoke about Liam and his business. As I spoke, Liam's face grew harder and colder. When I was finished, I pulled the pen out of my pocket. And I recorded all of it, I said. Liam's eyes widened. He took the pen from me and looked at it as if it were a precious jewel. Amy, you are brilliant, he said, a slow smile spreading across his face. This changes everything. This is our leverage. We spent the next hour listening to the recording. Hearing my father's words again, so full of arrogance and deceit, solidified my resolve. There was no going back. There was no possibility of reconciliation. He had made it clear that he would never respect my marriage or my independence. The only way forward was to break free, completely and permanently. We need a lawyer, Liam said after the recording finished. A real one, someone who can help us use this. The next day, I made an appointment with a lawyer Liam had found online. Her name was Sarah Chen, and she specialized in financial disputes and family law. She had excellent reviews, with many people praising her as being tough, smart, and compassionate. We met her in her office a few days later. It was a small, no-frills space in a modest building. Sarah was a woman in her 40s with sharp, intelligent eyes and a calm, reassuring demeanor. We played her the recording. She listened intently, her face unreadable. When it was over, she was silent for a long moment. Well, she said finally, your father is a piece of work. He is also very clever. What he has done exists in a legal gray area. He has not technically stolen the money, because your name is on the account. But he has created a situation of undue influence and coercive control, and his refusal to provide you with account access or documents until you threatened legal action is a major breach of good faith. So, can we get the money back? I asked, my voice anxious. Yes, she said with confidence. We can. But suing him would be a long, messy, and public process. It would likely get ugly. He would paint you as an ungrateful daughter trying to extort money from her loving father. It would be, he said, she said, and family court judges have seen it all. My heart sank. A public court battle was the last thing I wanted. It felt like a nightmare. However, Sarah continued, a small smile touching her lips, I do not think we will need to sue him. People like your father, who build their entire identity around an image of power and benevolence, have a very specific weakness. What is that? Liam asked. Their reputation, she said. Your father cares more about what people think of him than anything else. He has cultivated an image as a generous family man, a pillar of the community. The recording you have is a direct threat to that image. If this recording were to be made public, say, if it were to be leaked to the local newspaper or shared on social media, it would destroy him. The hypocrisy would be devastating. A new path began to form in my mind, a path that did not lead through a courtroom. So we use it as leverage, I said. Exactly, Sarah said, nodding. We do not file a lawsuit. We write him a letter. A very direct, very clear letter from my office. The letter will state that he is engaged in coercive financial control. It will detail his misrepresentations about the trust, and it will make a simple demand. The full amount of the money is to be transferred into a new account, in your name only, within 7 days. The letter will also state that if he fails to comply, a copy of this recording will be sent to several interested parties. We can list a few for effect: the editor of the local paper, the president of his country club, the pastor at his church. It was ruthless. It was brutal. It was perfect. It was using his own tactics against him. He used the threat of withholding money to control me. We would use the threat of public humiliation to free me. And what if he calls our bluff? Liam asked. What if he thinks we will not do it? Then we do it, Sarah said, her eyes hard as steel. You have to be prepared to follow through. If you threaten to burn his world down, you have to be holding the matches. Are you prepared for that? I looked at Liam. He looked at me and nodded, his expression unwavering. He was ready. I took a deep breath. Was I ready to potentially detonate a bomb in the middle of my family and my life? Ready to face the fallout? The anger, the accusations? I thought about the wedding toast. I thought about the fake trust. I thought about his cold, dismissive voice on the recording. I thought about the life of freedom that waited for me and Liam on the other side of this. Yes, I said, my voice clear and strong. I am. Sarah smiled. Good, she said. Then let's get to work. She drafted the letter that afternoon. It was a masterpiece of legal precision and veiled threats. It laid out the facts of the case without emotion. It quoted my father's own words back to him from the recording. It gave him a clear deadline and a clear consequence for failure to comply. Seeing it all laid out in black and white made it feel real. This was happening. Sarah sent the letter via courier the next morning so we would have a record of him receiving it. The 7-day countdown began. The next few days were the longest of my life. We heard nothing. There were no angry phone calls, no pleading texts from my mother, no snide emails from my sister. Just silence. It was a terrifying, nerve-wracking silence. He is planning something, Liam said on the evening of the 4th day. He is not the type to just give in. He is trying to find a way around this. Or maybe he is just going to ignore it, I said, my stomach churning with anxiety. Maybe he thinks we are bluffing. If he is making a big mistake, Liam said. On the 6th day, the day before the deadline, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered it cautiously. It was my sister, Clara. Her voice was dripping with venom. I cannot believe you, she hissed. I cannot believe what you are doing to this family. What are you talking about? I asked, though I knew exactly what she was talking about. Dad showed me the letter. The letter from your disgusting little lawyer. You are blackmailing your own father. How could you be so vile? So ungrateful. He lied to me and stole my money, Clara, I said, my voice tired. He is the one who broke this family, not me. He was trying to protect you from that gold-digging husband of yours, she shrieked. We all see it. Everyone knows he only married you for your money. And now you are helping him steal it from Dad. The accusation was so vile, so far from the truth, that it did not even hurt. It was just pathetic. You have no idea what you are talking about, I said calmly. Liam has worked for everything he has. He never wanted a penny from Dad. This is about our money, the gift we were given. It was not a gift to him, she spat. It was for you. Dad was making sure it stayed with you in the family. I am my own family now, I said, with my husband. And you and Dad need to accept that. You are going to regret this, Amelia, she snarled. You are destroying everything. Dad is devastated. If he is devastated, he can fix it, I said. He just has to give me back my money. He has until tomorrow. I hung up. The call had been unpleasant, but it was also informative. It told me that my father was panicking. He had shown the letter to Clara, trying to rally his troops. He was playing the victim. This was a good sign. It meant our threat was working. The next day, the day of the deadline, was agonizing. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart leaped into my throat. We checked my email and my bank account every hour. Nothing. The business day came to an end. 5 o'clock came and went. Still nothing. My hope began to curdle into dread. He was going to call our bluff. He did not believe I would go through with it. He thinks I am still the same little girl who always backs down, I said to Liam, my voice hollow. He thinks I do not have the guts. Then we show him he is wrong, Liam said, his voice firm. He picked up his laptop. Sarah gave us the contact list, the newspaper editor, the country club president. Let's do it. My hand was shaking as I reached for my phone. I felt a wave of nausea. This was the point of no return. The moment I hit send on that email with the audio file attached, my relationship with my father, my mother, and my sister would be over. Not just strained, but utterly and irrevocably destroyed. Was I ready for that? My phone buzzed in my hand. It was a text message. From my father. My heart stopped. I opened it. The message contained a single screenshot. It was a confirmation of a wire transfer. For the full amount. Transferred from his account to mine. I quickly logged into my mobile banking app. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely type my password. I pulled up my checking account. And there it was. The balance. It was no longer zero. All the money, down to the last cent, was there. I started to cry. Huge, gasping sobs of relief. It was over. We had won. Liam wrapped his arms around me, holding me tight. You did it, Amy, he whispered in my ear. You did it. You are free. A few minutes later, another text came through from my father. I hope you are happy, it said. I looked at the message and my tears of relief turned into a cold, hard resolve. Happy? No, I was not happy that it had come to this. I was not happy that I had to threaten my own father to be treated like an adult. But I was not going to let him have the last word. I was not going to let him play the martyr. I typed a reply. This was never about happiness, I wrote. It was about respect. You have a long way to go. I hit send. That night, Liam and I opened a bottle of champagne. We did not feel like celebrating, not in a joyful way. It felt more like the end of a long, brutal war. We were exhausted, emotionally battered, but we were victorious. The first thing we do tomorrow, Liam said, raising his glass, is we move this money into a brand new account at a completely different bank. An account that he has no information about. And the second thing we do, I said, touching my glass to his, is we start looking for a house that we choose, far, far away from him. The next week was a whirlwind. We set up a new bank account. We met with a financial advisor Sarah recommended, and we found a real estate agent. We started looking at houses in a small town an hour away, a place with good schools and a strong sense of community. A place that felt like a world away from the cold, sterile suburb where I grew up. I did not hear from my father, but my mother called. She was crying. "Your father is heartbroken," she said. "He cannot believe you would do this to him. Blackmail him. He was only trying to protect you." "He was trying to control me, Mom," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. I was done trying to make her understand. "He lied to me and he tried to trap me. The only thing I did was refuse to be his victim." "You have broken his heart," she sobbed. "And you have broken this family." "No, Mom," I said quietly. "The family was already broken. I am just the first one who is willing to admit it." I knew she would never get it. Her entire life, her identity, was wrapped up in being his wife. To admit that he was a manipulative tyrant would be to admit that her whole life was a lie. And that was a truth she was not strong enough to face. A few weeks later, we found it. The perfect house. It was not huge or fancy. It was a modest, charming bungalow with a big front porch and a huge backyard with 2 old oak trees. It was the kind of house that felt like a home, not a statement. We put in an offer, and it was accepted. We used the money from my father, our money, for the down payment. Signing the papers at the closing felt like signing my own Declaration of Independence. We spent the next month packing up our small apartment and moving into our new home. It was hard work, but it was joyful work. Every box we unpacked, every piece of furniture we arranged, was a step toward building our new life, a life that belonged only to us. One afternoon, as I was unpacking a box of books in our new living room, my phone rang. It was my father. I hadn't spoken to him since the text exchange. I almost didn't answer, but some morbid curiosity made me pick up. "Amelia," he said. His voice was flat, empty. "What do you want?" I asked. "I heard you bought a house," he said. "Your mother told me." "Yes, we did," I said. There was a pause. "I would like to see it," he said. I was stunned. The audacity of the man was breathtaking. After everything he had done, he expected to be welcomed into the very home we had to fight him to be able to buy. "No," I said. The word hung in the air between us. It was a word I had so rarely said to him in my life. It felt powerful. "What do you mean, no?" he asked, his voice sharp with disbelief. "I am your father. I have a right to see where my daughter lives." "You gave up that right," I said, my voice as cold as his had been in his study that day. "You gave up that right when you lied to me, when you disrespected my husband, and when you tried to control my life. This is my home, with my husband, and you are not welcome here." I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line, a ragged, angry sound. He was not used to being told no. He was not used to facing consequences. "You will regret this," he finally choked out. "One day you will come crawling back. You will need me." "No, I will not," I said. And I knew with every fiber of my being that it was true. I did not need his money, his approval, or his suffocating presence in my life. I had Liam. I had my own home. I had my freedom. "Goodbye, Dad." I hung up the phone, and then I blocked his number. I blocked my mother's number. I blocked my sister's number. I disconnected myself from the entire toxic system. It was a clean, sharp cut. It hurt, but it was a necessary surgery to save my own life. A few months later, Sarah, my lawyer, sent me a little note. She had seen in the local paper that my father had stepped down from the board of his favorite charity. The reason cited was personal family matters. She had also heard a rumor through the grapevine that his application to become president of his country club had been quietly denied. I smiled. The recording had never been released, but the threat of it had been enough. I had not destroyed him publicly, but I had taken something from him. I had taken his power over me. And in doing so, I had revealed a weakness in him that others must have sensed. The king had been dethroned, not in a bloody coup, but in a quiet, internal collapse. He had not lost his money, but he had lost his authority. He had lost face. For a man like my father, that was a fate worse than death. Life went on. Liam's business thrived. We got a dog, a goofy golden retriever we named Gus. We painted the walls of our house colors that we chose. We hosted parties for our friends, filling the rooms with laughter and warmth. We were building a good life. Our good life. One evening, about a year after the wedding, Liam and I were sitting on our front porch watching the sunset. Gus was sleeping at our feet. It was a quiet, peaceful moment. "Do you ever miss them?" Liam asked gently. I thought about it for a moment. I thought about my mother, my sister, my father. I thought about the life I had left behind. "I miss the idea of them," I said honestly. "I miss the idea of having a family that loves me unconditionally. But I do not miss the people they actually are. I do not miss the walking on eggshells, the constant anxiety, the feeling of never being good enough." I looked at him, at this kind, strong, wonderful man who had stood by me, who had believed in me, who had shown me what real love looked like. "This is my family now," I said, putting my hand on his. "You are my family." He smiled and squeezed my hand. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the last sliver of sun disappear below the horizon. The wedding toast that had once felt like a curse, a public humiliation, now felt like something else entirely. It had been the catalyst. It had been the insult so profound that it finally woke me up from the long, slow slumber of compliance. My father had raised his glass and toasted himself, declaring himself the sole provider of my good life. He had been wrong. His toast had not been a declaration of his power. It had been the beginning of his end. He had inadvertently given me the one thing he never wanted me to have, a reason to fight for my own life. And I had won. He never apologized. He just paid the price. And I learned that some family ties are not bonds. They are chains. And the only way to be free is to break them,